Did you really think they didn't know? That they couldn't see how easily you break, how quickly you give in when they press just the right emotional button? Let me tell you something most people won't. There are people in this world who can smell emotional weakness the way a wolf scents blood. And if you don't learn to control your emotions, someone else will always control you. Now breathe, because this is going to sting. You see, every time you overreact, every time you cry to the wrong person, every time you expose your vulnerability without discernment, you're handing over a weapon. Custom-made, polished, and sharpened by your own hand, and trusting that they won't use it on you. But the world doesn't work that way. People will use it. Not everyone, but enough. We've been told to feel everything, to express everything, to let it all out. And while that's important in the right place and with the right people, the truth is, most of you are bleeding in front of people who don't even care that you're hurt. Or worse, they enjoy it. You think you're being real, being authentic, but you're being manipulated, being drained, being played. You think you're showing heart, but what you're really showing is your weakness in disguise. I've been in rooms where the stakes were life and death, where showing too much emotion could literally cost you everything. And what I learned is this: control is power. Not suppression, not faking it, but mastery. Emotional mastery is a weapon of the elite. When you know how you feel but don't need to display it, you win. When you can sit across from someone trying to provoke you and keep your cool, you win. When you choose your reactions instead of handing them out like freebies, you win. Most people never figure this out. They think feeling everything all the time means they're alive. No, it means you're reactive. It means your buttons are exposed, and anyone can push them. That's not living. That's being controlled. That's being someone's puppet. People will test you. Some of them for fun. Some because they want to feel powerful. And some just to see how much they can take from you. And if you keep letting your emotions run your life, if you keep being the person who explodes, who cries, who rants, who spirals, you become predictable. Predictable people are easy to manipulate, easy to defeat, easy to forget. You think people feel sorry for you when you crumble in front of them. No, they lose respect. They smile at you. Yes, they nod. They tell you it's okay. But behind closed doors they're thinking, weak, you want respect. Stop being the one who breaks every time something doesn't go your way. Let me make this clear: emotions are not your enemy. But letting your emotions rule you is self-sabotage. You can't afford to be an emotional fool in a world that rewards resilience. You've got to become someone who feels deeply but acts deliberately. Someone who chooses response over reaction. Someone who doesn't flinch when things get hard. I want you to remember the last time someone used your emotions against you. When you were too trusting, too open, too easily shaken. Now ask yourself, did they deserve that part of you? Did they earn your pain? Or did you hand it to them on a silver platter? Because being emotional isn't noble if it comes at the cost of your peace, your self-respect, your power. And no, this isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming strategic. Not emotionless, but emotionally intelligent. You want to cry, but not in front of those who will mock your tears. You want to talk, but not to people who twist your words and use them to discredit you. You want to feel deeply, but act wisely. You think people don't notice when you let your emotions make your decisions. They do. And if you're still letting your anger drive your actions, your sadness choose your relationships, or your fear hold back your voice, then you're handing over your future to chows. So here's what you need to do. You need to pause before you react. Learn to breathe when your heart is racing. Stop oversharing your pain with people who haven't earned the right to hear it. Let your silence do more talking. Let your calmness unsettle them. Because nothing disarms manipulation faster than a person who doesn't flinch. Control is the quiet power. It doesn't scream. It doesn't seek validation. It doesn't announce itself. But when you walk into a room composed, unbothered, emotionally grounded, that's when people stop underestimating you. That's when they realize you are not the same person they once played. Because now, you're untouchable. Not because you don't feel, but because you've learned to master the battlefield inside your mind. And that's the kind of power no one can take from you. So stop being an emotional fool. Because the world is watching. And more importantly, so are you. You think they didn't notice, right? That moment you broke down. The way your voice cracked. The way your whole energy shifted when they said that one thing that hit too close to home. But they did. They noticed everything. And the dangerous part, they remembered it. Because when people see where you're weak, they don't forget it. They file it away. They take notes. And not everyone's intentions are pure. You're not just showing emotion, you're handing out instructions on how to control you. This is where most people fail. They assume others operate from a place of kindness, empathy, or mutual care. But life isn't built on that kind of illusion. Some people test you for one reason, to see if you'll break, to see what makes you crack, so next time, they can apply pressure faster, harder, more precisely. They learn your patterns. They mark the exact moment your expression shifts, the words that make your eyes water, the insecurities you try to hide but accidentally reveal. And here's what's worse. You think you're being transparent and real, and maybe in your heart you are. But in their hands, that transparency becomes a weapon. The moment you emotionally unravel in front of the wrong person, they've got you. They now know exactly where to aim next time. And you won't even see it coming because you think they care. You think they're listening with compassion when really, they're calculating. Being emotional with people who don't have the emotional maturity to handle it is not vulnerability. It's exposure. It's stripping yourself down in front of someone who doesn't have the capacity or the integrity to protect what you've just shared. And once you give them that access, you can't take it back. That's the brutal reality. People will use your own emotions to play you like a chess piece, not because they're smarter, but because you left the board wide open. So stop thinking your raw emotion is always safe. Stop assuming your tears make people care. Sometimes all they make you is a target. Emotional intelligence means knowing who deserves your truth and who only wants to own it. People hear emotional control and instantly assume it means coldness. Like you're shutting everything down or pretending nothing affects you. But that's not what control is. Real control doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you feel everything. But you're not a slave to any of it. You don't collapse when pressure comes. You don't let your anger hijack your voice, your fear dictate your decisions, or your sadness leak into every conversation. You own your emotional state instead of letting it own you. When I say control is power, I'm not talking about bottling things up until you explode. I'm talking about discipline. About the kind of strength that lets you sit with intense emotion, rage, grief, betrayal, and still walk into the room with composure. That's real power. The kind that makes people pause. Because when you can keep your head while others are losing theirs, people notice. You become the anchor, the force they can't shake. People want to be emotionally free, but freedom without discipline is chaos. If your emotions constantly drag you around, how are you ever supposed to lead, to make clear choices, to defend your boundaries, or build anything stable? You're not free if your anger makes your choices. You're not strong if you fall apart every time someone disrespects you. You're not wise if your mouth moves before your mind catches up. There's a myth that expressing everything you feel all the time makes you authentic. No, it makes you impulsive, and impulsivity is not strength, it's vulnerability. Anyone can lash out. Anyone can cry in front of the wrong person. That's easy. What takes real courage is sitting with the discomfort, staying calm when you want to scream, choosing your moment instead of reacting to theirs. That is strength. That is control. And that is what earns respect. You don't need to be emotionless. You need to be precise. You need to feel the fire without letting it burn down everything you've built. Let your feelings inform you, yes, but never let them drive the car. You're the one behind the wheel, always. Some of you are handing out your life story like it's a flyer on a street corner, just hoping someone will read it, care, understand. But what you don't realize is that oversharing is not connection. It's exposure. Every time you spill your pain to someone who hasn't earned that level of access, you give them a blueprint to break you. You think they're listening to support you, but many are listening to study you. And once they know where the cracks are, all it takes is pressure at the right point to make you shatter. There's this desperate need people have to be heard, to be validated, to feel seen. And that's human. But when you try to meet that need by venting to anyone who seems available, What you're really doing is placing your emotional power into unreliable hands. You start talking about your childhood wounds, your failed relationships, your mental health, your shame, and the person across from you hasn't even proven they can handle their own emotions, let alone yours. You're not bonding. You're gambling. Let me ask you, how many people have you trusted too quickly only to watch them twist your words, minimize your pain, or worse, use it against you? That's not bad luck. That's bad discernment. And that's what happens when you confuse closeness with safety. Just because someone's physically near doesn't mean they're emotionally safe. Just because someone listens doesn't mean they deserve the story. That's where we get it wrong. You don't owe people your truth just because they asked. You don't have to bleed to prove you're real. You want connection. Build it slowly. Test their consistency. Observe their reactions. If someone can't sit with your silence, they definitely don't deserve your vulnerability. If they get uncomfortable when you hold back, imagine what they'd do if they had access to your deepest fears. The strongest people aren't the ones who pour it all out. They're the ones who know what to keep, when to speak, and who's earned the right to hear their pain. That's not secrecy, that's emotional security. And if you don't protect that, trust me, someone else will decide what your story becomes, and they won't always tell it kindly. The moment people can predict you, they can control you. It's that simple. If every time you feel insulted, you snap. Every time you're challenged, you shut down. Every time you feel ignored, you spiral. Guess what? You've become a puppet, and all it takes is one person who knows the right string to pull. That's how people get played, over and over. Not because they're weak, but because they're predictable. When someone knows what angers you, what scares you, what makes you insecure, and how you react when you feel those things, they don't need to overpower you, they just need to trigger you. And that trigger, you practically handed it to them. You didn't just wear your emotions, you broadcasted them, you made it obvious. And people who manipulate don't need strength. They need access. They don't have to force anything. They just poke, wait, and watch you fall apart on cue. And here's what hurts most. While you're caught up in your emotional chaos, they look calm, collected, smart, in control. Because they are. They're not reacting. You are. And now everyone watching sees the same thing, one person who's composed and another who's unraveling. That becomes the narrative. And even if you're right, your reaction cost you your credibility. You became the one who lost it. That's how fast perception flips. People think being emotional makes them passionate, real, powerful. But when your emotions make you predictable, you're not powerful. You're a liability. People don't trust you with responsibility if they think you're going to lose control under pressure. They may sympathize with you, but they won't follow you. They won't rely on you. They won't fear crossing you. Because if they already know how you'll react, they've already figured out how to neutralize you. Real strength is unpredictability in the face of provocation. It's when they think they've got you cornered emotionally, and you don't flinch. When they expect tears and you give them silence. When they expect rage and you respond with strategy. That's the moment you shift the power, true strength. That's when they realize you're not the same person they used to manipulate. You've leveled up, and now they don't know what move to make next. Because you stopped being predictable. You stopped giving them the playbook. Emotions are not the enemy. Let me say that again, because people get it twisted. Your emotions are not the problem. The problem is when you let those emotions lead, when you let them speak first. When you make decisions in the heat of the moment and then have to live in the cold consequences later. That's where everything starts to fall apart. You think you're being honest, being passionate, being bold. But really, you're being impulsive, and impulsivity disguised as authenticity is a recipe for self-destruction. Every time you let anger make a choice for you, every time you let fear silence your voice, every time sadness becomes your compass, you're surrendering your direction to something unstable. You're giving your future to a moment that might not even matter tomorrow. And that's the trick, isn't it? Emotions feel real. They feel massive, intense, consuming, but they're temporary. Emotions are like weather systems. They pass. But the damage you cause while you're in them, that can stick with you forever. people who live ruled by their emotions tend to live in cycles. It's knowing when your fear is legitimate and when it's just a response from past trauma. It's recognizing when your anger is justified and when it's really a mask for pain, insecurity, or the need to control. That awareness, that changes everything, because once you know what's really going on inside of you, you stop being reactive. You become intentional. And when you're intentional, you become dangerous, in the best way, because now your responses are calculated, your energy is controlled, your presence is commanding. You're not running around projecting pain or seeking approval or chasing validation. You're grounded. You're clear. You're selective about what you say, when you say it, and to whom. And that kind of precision makes people pause. It makes people take you seriously. Emotional intelligence also means you're not threatened by other people's emotions. You don't back down because someone raises their voice. You don't crumble because someone's disappointed in you. You've developed the ability to stay centered, even when the environment around you is chaos. And let me tell you, if you can master that, you become unshakable. You become the person people come to in crisis, the one who holds the room, the one they can trust to make decisions when no one else can see clearly. And no, this doesn't come naturally to most people. It's a discipline. It's built over time, through practice, through failure, through moments where you did react emotionally and had to face the consequences. That's how you learn. But eventually, you start catching yourself. You feel the trigger, and instead of exploding, you pause. You reflect. You ask yourself, is this feeling telling me something true, or just something loud? And that pause, that one moment of awareness, that's the gap between who you were and who you're becoming. If you want to lead, if you want respect, if you want freedom, emotional intelligence isn't optional. It's essential. Because you can be brilliant, talented, creative, hardworking. But if you can't regulate yourself, none of it will matter. You'll destroy relationships. You'll damage trust. You'll get in your own way. And that's what people don't talk about enough. Emotional intelligence isn't about being nice or understanding. It's about survival. It's about resilience. It's about becoming the kind of person who can handle anything without crumbling. So stop chasing emotional release. Start chasing emotional clarity. Stop trying to be heard all the time. Start trying to understand. Because once you understand yourself, you stop being controlled by your own chaos. And that's when you start controlling the outcome. That's when your presence becomes the quiet strength people can't ignore. Every time you let your emotions hijack the moment, a little bit of respect walks out the door. And people won't always say it out loud. They won't confront you. They won't tell you they've lost trust in your judgment. But make no mistake, they feel it. It's subtle. It's quiet. But it's real. You break down in front of the wrong people too many times, and they start to question your reliability. You lash out emotionally when things get difficult, and they start to see you as unstable. And once that image settles in their minds, it's hard to erase. You think being honest means putting your feelings out there every time they rise. You think being real gives you a free pass to react however you want. But let me ask you, are those reactions strengthening your image, or are they shrinking it? Because people may comfort you when you lose control, they may nod sympathetically when you fall apart, but behind closed doors, they're reevaluating your leadership, your credibility, your influence. Because in high-pressure environments, people don't follow emotion, they follow composure. And this doesn't mean you have to become a robot. It doesn't mean you're not allowed to feel. It means you have to know when and where to show those feelings. And more importantly, how. There's a time for vulnerability, but it's not in the middle of a conflict where clear thinking is required. There's a time for expressing emotion, but not when people are looking to you for stability. If you become the person who falls apart in the fire, no one will trust you to lead them through it. Respect is built in how you handle tension, how you navigate discomfort, how you carry yourself when things don't go your way. It's easy to look strong when everything's calm. The real test is who you are when the ground shakes. Do you flail, or do you ground yourself deeper? Do you speak from centered thought or from emotional impulse? Because the people around you are watching, and what they see in those moments determines how much they trust you. And it's not just about external respect. It's internal too. Every time you let yourself spiral, a piece of your self-respect erodes. You start to doubt your own stability. You question your own voice. You don't need anyone else to undermine your authority. You start doing it to yourself. But when you hold yourself together, when you choose strength over reaction, when you respond with clarity instead of chaos, you don't just earn their respect. You earn your own. You look in the mirror and know, I kept control. I stood my ground. I didn't fold. The truth is, emotional outbursts might feel powerful in the moment, but they cost you power in the long term. The real power is in restraint. In being able to feel everything and still choose your words with intention. Still sit with your pain without letting it lead. Still walk into the room like you own your place, not like you're asking for someone to manage your emotional temperature. That kind of presence makes people take notice. That kind of self-command makes people rise when you walk in. Not because you demand it, but because you've earned it. You don't build respect by reacting. You build it by remaining composed when it's hardest to do so. By staying aligned with your values, even when your emotions beg you to abandon them. You become the person people trust, not because you never feel, but because you feel deeply and still lead wisely. That's rare. That's power. And that's what sets you apart from everyone else unraveling in plain sight. You ever notice how people lose everything in seconds because of one emotional decision? One outburst, one message sent in anger, one desperate move made from fear. It doesn't take much. All it takes is one moment where you stop thinking and start reacting. And suddenly you've burned a bridge, sabotaged a relationship, or made a decision that sets you back years. That's the cost of desperation. It makes you impulsive, and impulsive people don't win. They break things they can't fix. You can feel urgency, you can feel frustration, but acting from that place, that's when your power slips. You're not operating from clarity. You're not leading with purpose. You're trying to make the emotion go away, not fix the problem. That's not decision-making, that's emotional escape. And escape feels good in the moment, but it always leaves a mess behind. Always. And then what do? You look around at the damage and call it bad luck. No, it wasn't bad luck. It was lack of discipline. The strongest people you'll ever meet aren't the ones who talk the loudest or act the fastest. They're the ones who pause, who hold back, who understand that emotional urgency is a trap and calm response is the exit. Because desperation is loud, it's reckless, it wants a quick fix, but wisdom is quiet, it's patient. It doesn't move just to feel better. It moves when it makes sense. That's the difference. You think saying everything you feel in the heat of the moment is strength. No, it's emotional laziness. It's a lack of control disguised as honesty. Real strength, is when you feel something so deeply but still have the discipline to hold the line. To walk away instead of scream. To wait until your clarity returns before you make that call, send that message, or end that relationship. Because action made in desperation doesn't solve problems. It creates them. And let's talk about relationships for a second. You want to ruin something fast. Start acting from insecurity. Start making decisions based on fear that you'll be abandoned or hurt. Start chasing, begging, proving your worth. That's not connection. That's survival mode. And people can feel the difference. They don't respect it. They don't trust it. They move away from it. Because nobody wants to be in a relationship with someone who can't control their emotional temperature. It applies to your goals too. You ever see someone quit something they cared about? Not because they really wanted to, but because it got hard. Because they got discouraged. Because their emotions told them, this isn't working, give up. That's not a real decision. That's just fatigue with a microphone. And if you keep letting your emotions run the show, you'll keep quitting things before they ever have a chance to work. You'll keep building sandcastles and wondering why they never last. There's a word for people who can feel everything but still act with intention. It's not cold. It's not robotic. It's strategic. It's powerful. It's self-governed. And people like that, they don't burn out. They don't break down. They don't ruin what they've worked for because they had a bad day. They sit with their discomfort. They watch the storm pass, and then they move forward with precision. So stop making desperate moves. Stop reacting to the fear, the doubt, the shame, the panic. Feel it. but don't feed it. Let it pass through you without building a home inside you. Because when you act deliberately, not emotionally, that's when your life starts to change. That's when you stop creating chaos and start building legacy. That's when you shift from being ruled by emotion to being the one in command. Every time, your composure is not just a nice trait. It's your armor. It's your protection in a world that's constantly trying to provoke you, test you, and pull you into chaos. When you walk into a room calm, grounded, and centered, people feel it. They may not know why they suddenly sit up straighter or speak more carefully, but they do, because a composed person sends a silent message: I'm not here to play games. I'm not moved by noise. I see everything, and I choose how to respond. That kind of presence, it's magnetic. It's unshakable. Most people don't realize the level of discipline it takes to stay composed when everything inside you wants to react. When someone disrespects you, when you're misunderstood, when you feel hurt, triggered, dismissed, you'll feel that surge. You'll want to defend, retaliate, correct. But here's the truth. The second you lose your composure, you give away your leverage. You go from being the one in control to being the one controlled, and people who can trigger you at will, they own you. Your emotional composure is the line in the sand. It says, you don't get to dictate how I feel. You don't get to control my energy. I respond when I decide, not when you provoke me. That's not arrogance. That's self-mastery, and the reason people respect it so much is because most of them can't do it. They live reactive lives. They wear their feelings on their sleeves. They think they're being real, when really they're just bleeding in public and calling it authenticity. You want to see real power? Watch someone who doesn't flinch. Watch someone who hears an insult and smiles. Who's confronted with chaos but stays steady. That's a threat to people who rely on emotional manipulation, because their tactics stop working. You become untouchable. Not because you don't care, but because you care too much about your own integrity to let someone else dictate your state of mind. And it's not about being passive either. Let's be clear. Composure doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It means you wait, you watch, and then you act with precision. You don't explode. You strike when it matters. You don't need to make a scene to make a statement. Your presence does the talking before your mouth ever opens. That's the kind of person people can't ignore, can't manipulate, and definitely can't predict. There's a quiet kind of dominance in composure. It's not loud, it's not flashy, but it's unforgettable. It's the reason some people lead without saying much. It's the reason others seek your approval without understanding why. Because people crave stability. And when they see it in you, they instinctively want to follow it or challenge it. But either way, they feel it. So when you're tempted to yell, don't. When you're tempted to react, wait. When you feel everything boiling inside, breathe deeper. Because the one who stays calm under pressure doesn't just survive the storm, they own it. Your composure is your quiet power, and it makes more noise than rage ever could. If you take one thing from this, let it be this: the world doesn't reward emotional chaos, it respects emotional control. Your strength isn't in how loud you get, how much you cry, or how fast you react. Your real strength is in your stillness, in your ability to sit with discomfort and not be ruled by it, to feel everything, yet still choose your response. That's not weakness, that's elite. So stop giving your power away to every insult, every doubt, every manipulator trying to trigger you. Stop living like an emotional fool, and start living like someone who knows exactly who they are, because that's when you stop surviving and start leading. That's when your life changes,